Executive Summaries, April 2026 edition.
Threads of celebration, weaving culture, fashion, and identity. Celebration has always been intricately stitched into the fabric of human expression. Across continents and cultures, textiles and garments do far more than serve a functional purpose. They tell stories, mark milestones, and embody the spirit of festivity. From the vibrant hues of traditional attire worn during religious and cultural festivals to the evolving silhouettes showcased on global runways, fashion continues to stand as a living canvas of identity, heritage, and collective joy. Here in Bangladesh, the spirit of celebration has just been beautifully renewed with the arrival of Poila Boishakh, the Bangla New Year. As the nation welcomed 1433 Bangla Year, streets came alive with color, music, and tradition. On this joyous occasion, we extend our warmest greetings to all our readers, partners, and contributors of the Apparel Digest. This celebration is not only a cultural milestone, but also a powerful reminder of how deeply textiles and garments are woven into our festive identity. From handloom saris and Punjabis to the iconic motifs and palettes that define the season. In our local context, textiles are inseparable from celebration. Each season brings its own distinct palette, textures, and craftsmanship, whether it is intricate weaves, hand-dyed fabrics, or artisanal embellishments that shape festive wardrobes. These traditions are not static, they evolve continuously, blending heritage with contemporary design sensibilities. Designers, manufacturers, and artisans across Bangladesh are reinterpreting age-old techniques, ensuring that culture remains vibrant, relevant, and economically empowering. Globally, the dialogue between culture and fashion has never been more dynamic. Cross-cultural influences are reshaping the industry as designers draw inspiration from diverse traditions, while consumers increasingly seek authenticity, storytelling, and meaning in what they wear. Festivity, in this sense, transcends borders. It becomes a universal language expressed through color, craftsmanship, and creativity. Whether it is Lunar New Year collections, Eid fashion, Diwali capsules, or Carnival culture, the global industry continues to celebrate diversity through design. At the same time, celebration invites reflection. The global apparel sector stands at a critical intersection where sustainability, ethical sourcing, and cultural respect must guide its future. As we honor traditions, we must also safeguard the communities and crafts that sustain them. Preserving heritage techniques while embracing innovation is no longer optional. It is essential for building a responsible and resilient industry. While we wish our readers to have a successful, prosperous new year, we also urge to look beyond seasonal trends and rediscover the stories woven into every thread. Stories of craftsmanship, identity, and the enduring human desire to celebrate. Let's delve deeper into how celebration and culture influence textile development, garment production, and fashion narratives, both locally and global. Thank you all.
Remembering Dr. Forrest Cookson, a friend of Bangladesh and a voice of insight. It is with a heavy heart that the Apparel Digest remembers Dr. Forrest Cookson, an esteemed contributor, a brilliant economist, and to many, a cherished senior friend and mentor. He passed away peacefully in Dhaka on April 21st, just days before his 92nd birthday. Born on April 26, 1934 in the United States, Dr. Cookson first arrived in Bangladesh in the mid-1980s to support a financial sector reform initiative that began a decades-long association with the country. He went on to serve as a consultant to Bangladesh Bank and played a central role in the financial sector reform program of the 1990s, a landmark effort to modernize Bangladesh's banking and capital market regulatory framework. He also advised the Bangladesh Bureau of Statistics, contributing to the methodological foundations of the country's national economic data. He led the Foreign Investors Chamber of Commerce and Industry and served as president of AmCham in Bangladesh from 1996 to 2001, working to consolidate the chamber's institutional footing and deepen trade and investment ties between the US and Bangladesh, and its trade and investment ties between the US and the domestic country. He earned his degree from Princeton and his PhD in economics from Georgetown University in 1961, where he also taught for some time. Dr. Cookson did not simply study Bangladesh's apparel sector. He lived it and immersed himself in its realities. He developed a deep affection for its people and potential. For the Apparel Digest, he was a valuable and consistent voice, contributing month after month. He had a rare ability to translate complex economic realities into thoughtful, accessible narratives. Whether examining market dynamics, labor challenges, or policy shifts, his writing illuminated the forces shaping the industry with both precision and perspective. For readers, his articles became a trusted compass in times of uncertainty and change. The Apparel Digest mourns the loss of Dr. Forrest Cookson. His contributions were never merely analytical. They carried a depth of understanding shaped by years of experience, a sharp intellect, and a genuine concern for the industry's people, progress, and future. His ideas and insights continue to inform and inspire. Rest in peace, Dr. Cookson. A homeland reimagined. Pohila Boishakh among Bangladeshi students in Australia. Thousands of kilometers from home, no processions, no crowded streets, no morning ilish. So how do Bangladeshi students in Australia celebrate their New Year? Turns out, more meaningfully than you might expect. Pohila Boishakh is the first day of the Bengali calendar. Back home, it is color, noise, and belonging. In Australia, it becomes something quieter and perhaps even deeper. Student associations at Monash, RMIT, Melbourne, and Deakin organize cultural nights, food stalls, and performances. Women arrive in red and white saris, men in simple Punjabis, and Robindro Sangeet drifts through the room. As one student put it, for a few hours it feels like I'm back home. Beyond campuses, organizations like Bengali Association Victoria and Bangla Center Victoria bring families, professionals, and students together, recreating the festive energy of home in a city far from it. One student from the University of Melbourne called her parents in Dhaka just before the event. Her parents were eating lunch. She was getting ready for the evening. It felt like we were celebrating together, she said. And it does not stop at the Bangladeshi community. Non-Bangladeshi students are invited in to eat, to listen, to experience. Through music, food, and storytelling, Pohila Boishakh becomes a moment of genuine cultural exchange, reflecting the multicultural world the students now live in. Studying abroad is hard and loneliness is real. In that context, Pohila Boishakh becomes grounding, a rare moment to pause and reconnect. Students return to their routines after, but something stays, a quiet pride, a reminder that home is not only a place, it is something you carry with you and choose to keep alive.
When multiple prices begin to align, orders are coming in, factories are running. On paper, Bangladesh's garment industry looks fine, but underneath that, something else is happening. The pressure is not coming from one direction, it is coming from several at once. The most visible problem is energy. Factories in Gazipur and Ashulia are dealing with gas shortages and frequent power cuts, and work no longer runs smoothly. Many have turned to diesel generators as a workaround, but fuel is not always available in the right amount. The result is that production capacity has quietly fallen by as much as 25 to 35%, not because of any formal shutdown, but simply because working hours keep shrinking. That instability does not stay inside the factory walls. Buyers notice it. Some international brands are already delaying orders while others are shifting work to alternative markets, and global demand is not offering any relief either. Western retailers are still carrying unsold stock from earlier seasons, and orders from the next cycle are expected to fall by around 8 to 10%. So supply is becoming less stable here, while demand is slowing abroad. And in the middle of all that, costs are rising. Truck fares between major industrial hubs have gone up by around 20%. Raw material costs, particularly yarn, are climbing too. The situation in the Middle East has disrupted fuel markets further, making imports more expensive. But factories cannot pass this cost on to buyers, so they end up absorbing the difference themselves. That pressure is now showing on the ground. Some exporters are considering air freight to meet deadline, even though it costs significantly more. The Bangladesh Garment Manufacturers and Exporters Association has introduced fuel cards to help factories access diesel from designated stations. It is a practical step, but a temporary one. It reduces pressure without removing it. Bangladesh's garment industry has always adapted under pressure, but adaptation works best when problems are isolated. Right now, they are not. Energy is unstable, costs are rising, and global demand is weakening, all at the same time. The question is no longer just about surviving individual challenges. It is about how long the system can hold when everything starts moving in the same direction at once.
Brand in focus, Balmain Paris. A house built on structure, reinvented by glamour and now quietly shifting again. Balmain Paris has never stayed still, and that is exactly what makes it worth watching. Pierre Balmain founded the house in 1945 in a Paris that was still rebuilding itself after the war. He came from an architectural background and it showed. The early identity was precise, structured and quietly elegant. The Jolie Madame silhouette defined it, worn by royalty, actresses and elite clients who valued precision over noise. After Pierre Balmain's death in 1982, the house went through quieter decades. That changed in 2011 when Oliver Rousteing took over. He was young, digital first, and understood visibility in a completely new way. Balmain became louder. It became global. It became deeply tied to celebrity culture and social media. The idea of the Balmain army captured this new era. Fashion was no longer just about garments. It was about identity and influence. In November 2025, Rousteing stepped down after 14 years. His departures opened the door to something different. Antonin Tron, founder of Atelier and known for draping and controlled minimalism, was appointed as the new creative director. The direction feels more restrained now, focused on construction and fabric movement rather than bold decoration. His first collection is expected at Paris Fashion Week in 2026. The industry is watching closely. Through all of this, certain things about Balmain have never changed. It operates as a selective luxury house. No mass expansion, no chasing scale. The house produces women's wear, menswear, footwear, accessories and fragrances, but across every category, the design language stays consistent. Structured, bold, and always visually intentional. Owned by Mahula for Investments, a private Qatari luxury group, the brand functions within a carefully managed ecosystem. Flagship boutiques, high-end retail, and controlled exclusivity remain central to how it operates. And what it sells goes beyond clothing. Balmain offers a narrative, one of confidence, presence, and cultural visibility. That is what draws its audience in, not just the garments, but the identity behind them. Where fast fashion prioritizes immediacy, Balmain focuses on lasting impact. Today, Balmain sits between two identities. Rousteing's era of digital glamour on one side, Tron's quieter direction still taking shape on the other. The transition is ongoing and the identity is not fully settled yet. But that is what makes Balmain compelling right now. It is not a sign of uncertainty, it is a study in how a heritage house evolves while staying culturally relevant. Tarkhan, a symbolic and revolutionary start to fashion. We talk about fashion like it is a modern obsession, but what if the desire to dress with intention goes back 5,000 years? One dress suggests it does. The Tarkhan dress dates to around 3000 BCE. It is the oldest woven garment ever discovered. Found in 1913 by Sir Flinders Petrie at Tarkhan, a cemetery south of Cairo that was once a bustling settlement during Egypt's early dynastic period. It was initially mistaken for a bundle of old linen. It took decades before experts realized what they actually had. What makes it remarkable is not just its age. The dress was made from finely woven linen, produced from flax through a long and careful process. It has a shaped neckline, short sleeves, and a pleated bodice. The pleats are still visible today. This was not a loose cloth thrown over a body. It was constructed to fit one. Radiocarbon testing dates it between 3482 and 3102 BCE, placing it at the very start of Egypt's first dynasty. We do not know who wore it, but the dress is small, suggesting a young or slender person, and the quality of the linen points to someone of high status. In ancient Egypt, finer materials were linked to wealth and social position. Its survival alone is extraordinary. Textiles rarely last this long. Egypt's dry climate and the boreal conditions helped preserve it. Even so, the fabric is fragile today and is kept in controlled conditions at the Petrie Museum in London. The dress also reflects something wider. Textile work was central to Egyptian life. It supported trade and shaped daily existence. The single garment is a window into that broader system, one where craft, commerce, and culture were deeply connected. The Tarkhan dress challenges the assumption that early societies lacked sophistication. The skill, the intentional design, the quality of craft, all of it points to a civilization that valued both function and form. And yet the article reminds us of something humbling. This dress may not even be the beginning. It hints at an older tradition, much of which is lost to time. What we have is a fragment. But what a fragment it is, one that connects us across 5,000 years to people who understood that clothing was never just a necessity. It was always a way to say something about who you are.
Muslin, a fabric that traveled further than intended. Muslin came from the river delta around present-day Dhaka from a local cotton variety known as Futi carpus, whose fibers were unusually soft and thin. What came from those fibers was unlike anything ordinary. During the Mughal Empire, clothing was never just clothing. It reflected status and shaped how refinement was perceived. Muslin sat at the center of that. Rulers like Jahangir valued it deeply, and it moved through courts not as everyday cloth but as a mark of distinction. Its worth was not only symbolic, it was economic too, built on the skill and time that went into every thread. Through networks linked with the British East India Company, demand grew outward and Dhaka became a key production center in an early global textile economy. Then, colonial rule changed everything. The craft ecosystem weakened and weaving communities lost their footing. Cheaper industrial textiles made in far greater volumes gradually replaced hand production. The decline was slow, but it never reversed. Cheaper industrial textiles made in far greater volumes gradually replaced hand production. The decline was slow, but it never reversed. And then, long after it had faded from trade, muslin turned up somewhere no one expected. When the Wright brothers were designing early aircraft, they needed something light yet stable under airflow. Muslin ended up covering the wings of the Wright Flyer at Kitty Hawk, not because of its history but because it worked. It later found quieter uses too, in laboratories, kitchens and basic medical settings, valued now for utility rather than status. But the most important part of muslin's story is what was lost along the way. It did not decline because it stopped being valuable, it declined because the knowledge behind it collapsed. Spinning techniques, cultivation methods, weaving precision, all of it faded with the communities that once held it. What disappeared was not just a fabric but an entire way of creating value, one built on skill and environmental adaptation rather than speed and scale. It was so light it barely felt like fabric, so fine it seemed closer to air than material, and yet it traveled further than almost anything else woven by human hands. Today, researchers and artisans around Dhaka are working to piece that back together, not just to recover something cultural, but to rediscover what it means to make something well. Muslin's story is not a straight line, it is a series of returns. Apparel news in brief for April 2026. Nearly 400 garment factories have shut down over the past 3 years. Ahead of the national budget, leaders from Bangladesh's apparel and textile sector, the national BGMEA President Mahmoud Hassan Khan proposed lowering the source tax on garment exports from 1% to 0.65%. BGMEA President Shaukat Aziz Russell stressed the need to support MMF investment, noting that global demand is shifting from cotton-based products, where Bangladesh remains heavily constant. New geopolitical tensions in the Middle East are adding fresh pressure. Competing countries. Industry leaders also recommended classifying solar equipment as capital machinery and reducing import duties to encourage renewable energy. Garment exports declined 5.51% to $28.57 billion, with both knitwear and woven segments feeling the drop. Authorities have approved emergency diesel supply from nearby filling stations as an immediate measure. But the sector is asking for something far more lasting. Election. Buyer confidence had started to recover after the election, he noted, but renewed global instability has once again affected order flows. A handful of sectors like frozen fish and leather goods recorded some growth, offering limited relief. The overall export volume remains significant, and that speaks to the sector's resilience. But the pressure is real, and it is not letting up. Nearly 400 garment factories have shut down over the past 3 years, many others struggling, and the industry is now asking the apparel industry seeks policy support for MMF and solar investments, which cannot afford to ignore. Ahead of the national budget, leaders from Bangladesh's apparel and textile sector met with the National Board of Revenue to push for tax relief, and BGMEA President Mahmoud Hassan Khan proposed lowering the source tax on garment export from 1% to 0.65% and exempting cash incentives income tax of raw materials and transportation have only added to the strain. TMA President Shaukat Aziz Russell stressed the need to support MMF investment, noting that global demand is shifting away from these products, where Bangladesh remains heavily concentrated. New geopolitical tensions in the Middle East are adding fresh pressure. Competing countries, meanwhile, are maintaining more stable energy supplies, leaving Bangladesh at a disadvantage. Industry leaders also recommended classifying solar equipment as capital machinery and reducing import duties to encourage renewable energy adoption. Import duties on solar equipment. Authorities have approved emergency diesel supply from nearby filling stations as an immediate measure. It helps, but the sector is asking for something far more lasting. Apparel industry seeks policy support for MMF and solar investments. Nearly 400 garment factories have shut down over the past 3 years. Many others are struggling, and the industry is now asking the government to act. Ahead of the national budget, leaders from Bangladesh's apparel and textile sector met with the National Board of Revenue to push for tax relief and incentives. The focus was on 2 areas: man-made fiber garments and solar energy systems. BGMEA President Mahmoud Hassan Khan proposed lowering the source tax on garment exports from 1% to 0.65% and exempting cash incentives from income tax BTMA President Shaukat Aziz Russell stressed the need to support MMF investment, noting that global demand is shifting away from cotton-based products where Bangladesh remains heavily concentrated. Industry leaders also recommended classifying solar equipment as capital machinery and reducing import duties to encourage renewable energy adoption. NBR Chairman Abdul Rahman Khan said the authority is considering measures to improve tax compliance, including QR code systems for packaged goods. The proposals reflect growing pressure on a sector managing rising costs, energy constraints, and shifting global demand all at once. Bangladesh surpasses China in US apparel exports amid tariff shifts. For years, China has dominated US apparel imports. In the first 2 months of 2026, something shifted. The shift was driven largely by US reciprocal tariffs, which hit China hard. China dropped to third place with exports worth $1.17 billion, a steep 57.65% decline from the previous year. Bangladesh moved ahead of China in garment exports to the United States during January and February 2026, according to data from the Office of Textiles and Apparel. Bangladesh's garment exports totaled $1.37 billion during the period, though that still marked an 8.53% decrease compared to the same time last year. Vietnam held the top position with shipments valued at $2.7 billion, up 2.88% year-on-year. Total US garment imports reached $11.53 billion in the first 2 months of 2026, down 13.47% from 2025. Bangladesh's rise in the ranking reflects a shifting trade landscape, even as its own export volumes remain under pressure. Bangladesh's trade gap with India nears $8 billion, largest in SAARC. Among its South Asian neighbors, Bangladesh has one trade relationship that stands out, not for good reasons. Bangladesh recorded a trade deficit of approximately $7.86 billion with India in the 2024 to 2025 fiscal year, the largest among all SAARC nations, according to Industries Minister Khandakar Abdul Muqtadir. Bangladesh exported goods worth $1.76 billion to India while importing $962 billion, creating the significant gap. Beyond India, Bangladesh also recorded deficits with Afghanistan, Bhutan, and Pakistan. In contrast, it maintained surpluses with Nepal, Sri Lanka, and the Maldives. The figures point to a broader pattern. Bangladesh remains heavily import-dependent on certain neighbors, particularly India, while holding smaller but notable export advantages elsewhere in the region. The imbalance with India, however, remains in a league of its own.